Hello everyone, I am the Satanic Witch. I'm going to be finally talking to you guys about something that I've been wanting to talk to you guys about for a long time. As you can tell by the title, we're going to be talking about Satanic Panic today. I think this is a really silly topic to cover on a Satanist channel. I don't know, it'll be funny, it'll be fun. And I think it's funny because most of the things and people, events that have contributed to Satanic Panic aren't Satanists. So they have nothing to do with actual Satanism, but we're going to talk about them anyway because I think it's fun. Alright. And I want to also just disclaimer out here, this is going to be a very ready episode. I'm just going to be looking at my notes the whole time. I guess you could call it a visual podcast. So if you have stuff to do, you want to clean your room, or you're in the car or whatever, this is a good time to listen to it. It's probably going to be pretty long. I tried to do a good amount of research, and I definitely, I don't have all the information on everything I'm going to be talking about because I didn't want this to be like an hour and a half long. So I'm just kind of touching on all of the different things that I found, and this probably isn't everything that contributed to Satanic Panic, or still contributing to it. But yeah, we're just gonna go over it, and yeah, I hope you guys enjoy. So I'm gonna start with just the straight up definition of Satanic Panic. And it's a phenomenon characterized by the widespread fear about the presence of satanic ritual abuse in one's community, state, or country. Yeah, it originated in America in the 1970s, but it didn't really start getting popularity until the 1980s and 90s. And there were other types of panics before this time, obviously, but this is the first time it was directed exactly on Satanists, and on this scale. You know, the whole country was freaking out. Oh yeah, and it became more popular in the 80s and the 90s due to evangelical Christians believing that a network of Satanists were controlling secular society and modern society and the world around them. So let's see. One of the first noted, I guess first documented bursts of panic came through Mike Warnke's The Satan Seller, which was a proclaimed autobiography that was published in 1972. And though his story was later found to be falsified, he was still considered an expert and even an authority on Satanism at the time. At least by the mainstream media, not by Satanists themselves. And a lot of evangelical fundamentalist Christians are kind of the ones, I don't know, turning the gears in this one. They're the ones who are really focusing on Satanists and the ones that are controlling their society. Satanic Panic was also dragged into light by conspiracy theories over demonic messages hidden in rock and roll music. It's called backwards masking, and it's that thing where someone tells you, oh, did you hear so-and-so's song? If you play it backwards, it actually says 666, you know? It's things like that, but that was a real fear that people had, and they would get the records and play them backwards and hear some demonic message and think surely that was the workings of the rock and roll musicians. Heavy metal music in general was also categorized as demonic and satanic. And it was also heavily believed that organized masses of Satanists would gather underground in secret dungeons to perform not only human sacrifice, but sex abuse, including abuse with children. Throughout this time, law enforcement grew a fondness over using our name as the scapegoat to unsolved crimes like rape and murder. There oftentimes would be a heavy weight on the shoulders of the sheriffs and the police in that town, and they needed to point a finger, so they would just pick the closest goth kid they saw. Y'all know what I'm talking about. Satanic ritual abuse was a huge part of that narrative to help police keep the fingers pointed at the satanic group, members of society. And satanic ritual abuse specifically is where child sex abuse comes in. And there were some pretty ridiculous claims made that Satanists perform over 1 million human sacrifices a year. Those were taken seriously, regardless of lack of evidence and just pure ridiculousness, and the fact that how can 1 million people have been murdered and are missing due to these satanic cults and nobody knows about it. That's a huge number of people. Somebody would notice, I think. Some other people pulling the strings of the panic include Rebecca Brown with He Came to Set the Captives Free, Lauren Stratford with Satan's Underground, radio talk show host Bob Larson. He wrote Dead Air and Abaddon. And then author Hal Lindsey and, and comic writer Jack Chick. I haven't read, which one of these have I read? Oh, I read the Dead Air and Abaddon by Bob Larson, but I haven't read any of the other ones. But you guys should totally check them out to see the impact that they've had and why they caused a panic. I'm not going to get into all of those books now because I got more stuff to talk about. Satanic ritual-based seminars became more common in law enforcement, and they would often be talked about and shown these seminars during 1 to 3 day long conferences. Some of the titles of the seminars were called Satanic Influences in Homicide, Occult Crimes, Satanism, and Teen Suicide, Ritualistic Abuse of Children. And then some of the topics that were covered during these seminars were the historical views of Satanism, witchcraft, and paganism, nature and influence of fantasy RPG games such as Dungeons and Dragons, influence of rock and roll, heavy metal, and black metal, teenage stoner gangs and their vandalism, teen suicide. Oh God, I shouldn't laugh when I say suicide. I was laughing about the stoner gangs. Bad timing. Teen suicide by those studying the occult, crimes committed by Satanists, ritual child abuse with bizarre ceremonies and human sacrifice, organized, traditional, multi-generational satanic groups involved in conspiracies, which involve taking over daycare centers, police stations, and human trafficking. Oh, and then also everything that ties us to and being responsible for Hitler, World War II, abortion, illegal drugs, porn, Watergate, Irangate, Pizzagate, and the infiltration of the Department of Justice, the Pentagon, and the White House. Y'all, we're doing it. We made it. Okay, so I'm filming on a different day. I had to separate the videos, so there's just like gonna be this weird change of like my clothes and probably the angle. I don't know. But I just wanted to say that before everyone was like, why are the random outfit change in the middle of the video? Whatever. Okay, let's continue with what I was talking about. So all of those points that I just talked about before with the law enforcement, those were all grouped together very casually under the guise of Satanism. it's just that they had no proper evidence to back any of these claims. And aside from some graffiti that teenagers did at the cemetery, that was like the evidence. And there was also a great deal of evidence that was created by other religious organizations, including news articles and videotapes that were used in the trainings at the seminars for the law enforcement, and they were presented as real facts and real evidence of the existence of the problems. So you're basically just arming all of these police officers with garbage about satanic cults that didn't exist and weren't relevant in the area, and just kind of misguiding them so that they're not really going to look for the person who actually did it. They're just going to pick on the satanic goth kids. Faith, not logic or reason, governs way too many people, especially in the areas of religion, which allows non-religious law enforcement to fall into the fundamentalist Christians' hands without question. So even though these police officers might not go to church or believe in God, they're still more afraid of Satan. Getting into some crimes that have been blamed on Satanism in the past, and these are just some, again, and I'll give you guys a little snippet on each one. So back in 1983, the McMartin preschool abuse case took hold. The trials lasted 7 years over a mother who was accusing her ex-husband as well as a teacher for molesting her son. The preschool staff was believed to be practicing satanic rites and flew through the air, flew through the air and drilled holes in children. Based on the reports taken from children, that's what they believe to be true. These children were heavily interviewed and often were given false memories, which I'm going to talk about. That was also kind of a big monster of the Satanic Panic, were false memories. From 1968 to 1985, there was a serial killer that active under the nickname Monster of Florence. And it was reported that they were satanic sacrifices, though there was never any evidence of Satanism at all. And probably the most famous, possibly the most famous, is West Memphis 3. I mentioned them a little bit earlier in this video, and they're basically 3 young boys' bodies were discovered in a ditch. And it was believed that the police at the time coerced a Jesse Miskelly into admitting to the crime, whilst implicating both Damien Eccles and Jason Baldwin. The whole thing was said to be a satanic ritual, and those were the 3 most goth kids in the small Bible Belt town. And actually, after spending 18 years in prison, a DNA test result showed DNA belonging to one of the boys, one of the victims' stepfathers. It was revealed that his violent and abusive past with the family. There was 0 DNA belonging to Eccles, Miskelly, or Baldwin. They were finally released in August 19th of 2011, and again, that was after spending 18 years in prison, falsely accused of a crime they never committed. And I'm gonna just mention his name, but I literally wrote in my notes too much to even do for one video, and it's Jimmy Savile. So if you want to dive into that rabbit hole, you're more than welcome. I just briefly touched on false memories, and I want to go back to that because they have long been a cause of Satanic Panic. It was immediately linked to recovered memory and multiple personality disorder, which are 2 borderline theories. Almost no satanic ritual abuse survivors remembered that they had been abused until the interrogation concerned parents, therapists, and or police. This is what happens when you read, okay? Almost no satanic ritual abuse survivors remembered they had been abused until the intervention of concerned parents, therapists, and or police interrogators. This allowed people to see that the memories were being created and not recovered. They even convinced one woman that she was able to remember things before the age of 1 year old, which obviously isn't possible. And sadly, it kind of created trauma in these people because they then believed that they experienced these things and it was real to them, because you can indeed create false memories and they feel totally real. And that inspired a lot of panic, because these people had a narrative, they had a message that they wanted to put out there, and they knew how to do it. And they did exactly that. Really sad, but they did exactly that. Now, I can't do a Satanic Panic video without mentioning Richard Ramirez, the Night Stalker, one of the most popular faces in occult true crime. But how real of a Satanist was he really? I actually have no idea. I've watched so many different interviews with him, and sometimes I feel like he gets it, and sometimes I feel like he might not. His crimes are pretty well known. I'm not going to get too deep into them, but just know that he murdered and raped both men and women from 1984 to 1985. His most popular satanic act was that he would draw a pentagram on his palm, and he really liked to show it to the jury and the cameras while he was in the courtroom. It was also reported that on one of his female victim's leg, he drew a pentagram, and also on the wall in the room. So you guys know how much media loves pentagrams. They go crazy over them. Yeah, I listened to a few interviews, and I feel like he might get the basic premise of Satanism. I think he probably does worship the devil, if not worship himself as the devil. I think he has a much more evil Satanism than most people do, but I think he does understand balance. Alright, last one. Yeah, last one. Of course, I'm going to mention Charles Manson. He, I think, has a pretty big name in the sensationalism version of Satanism. Manson created his family in 1967, and he killed 9 people with that family in 1969. The big bad act that pulled this monster into the media's eye, connecting him to Satanism, was a bloody helter-skelter painting that Charles had when a reporter came to interview him. That's all I can find connecting him to Satanism at all, is that he listened to heavy metal music. Yeah, I don't know. I looked. I tried to find stuff, but the only headlines I could find were, "Was Charles Manson possessed by the devil?" published by none other than the National Catholic Register. Also, Charles Manson, satanic mastermind behind murders, published by the Hollywood Reporter. So, yeah, okay, I thought I wrote down one more, but I didn't. I do believe that he worshipped himself as a god or demon, kind of like Richard Ramirez. And in that small way, he could be connected to real Satanism, but I don't think he would have called it that, or called himself that. He was a Nazi. He wasn't a Satanist. And Satanists are Nazis. Nazis are not Satanists. They have nothing to do with each other. Yeah, I feel like this was way too short of a video. I might touch on this again. because there is a lot to cover, and I feel like, I mean, I covered everything I wanted to talk about. Just know though that these are just very small pieces to a huge, huge puzzle of satanic panic, and it still happens today. I notice even within groups like occult groups, witchcraft groups, they still kind of are scared of Satan and the name of Satan, and they're scared of Satanists. It's a very powerful place to be. It's a very misunderstood place to be, and it's a dangerous place to be. I know it can be super exciting. I'm super excited to be a part of this group and to have people out there to connect with. But it's also very intimidating. A lot of people would want to kill you. It's kind of scary just like putting my face out on the internet and being like, I'm a Satanist, you know? It's scary, but there's more pride in it than fear, I think. And that's what you have to remind yourself if you find yourself being scared of what you are, whether you're just a witch or you're just a Satanist or you're just interested in left-hand path magic. Don't be afraid. Don't be afraid enough to avoid it, you know? Have a healthy fear. I had a lot of fun talking with you guys, and like I said, I'll probably do a part 2 to this one day. But I have a couple of other ideas that I want to talk about probably before that happens. I did just want to let you guys know though, this is the last time this is going to be my background. I really wanted to film this video before I moved, and I'm so glad that I did it. I'm moving in literally 10 days, and I need to pack all of this stuff up and get it out of here. I'm really sad to not have this space anymore. We're moving into a 1-bedroom, so I'm not going to have a place for my altar. I mean, I'll have a place for my altar, but I'm not going to have this huge, amazing room that I have grown to love so much. And I always say, like, this is the house that turned me into a hearth witch, that made me realize I was a hearth witch. And it's going to be so heartbreaking to leave, but I'm really ready for a new path, a new place in life, and a new town. The place I live right now is so depressing, and I'm going to be closer to the beach. I'm really going to embrace that, I think, like I never have, being a Floridian. I've never embraced living as close to the ocean as I should. Yeah, so weird outro for this video, but I wanted to just chat a little bit to tell you guys what's going on. I'm moving. Everything else is pretty normal. I'm super nervous about work. I'm transferring with the same company I work with now, but it's gonna be a lot different, and I'm gonna have a lot more responsibilities. So nerve-wracking, but it's going to be so worth it, and I can't wait for it to be done, for me to be moved in and done. And I don't know, I'll probably do maybe an updated altar tour once I have a space set up. Yeah, thank you guys so much for your support and your motivation to get these videos out, because it's not easy. I don't know how people do it once a week. I was telling myself upload a video once a month, and I have failed at that. So people who upload once a week or even daily, I have no idea how they do it. It's hard, but I really want to get better at it. There's a lot of things I want to get better at right now and just do more consistently, but this is one of them, and I think it's something I can do, and it will also help me do the other things I want to do more consistently, like actually get better at research and learning more about my craft, and kind of I don't know, I notice that I get very stagnant sometimes, and I'm just kind of doing the same stuff over and over again. So I feel like doing videos more often and having to do more research more often will push me to find new things. Okay, thank you guys again. I can't say it enough times. Thank you so much. Have a good day. I will see you in the next video, and it will be sooner. It won't be 4 months this time. Bye, you guys.